Welcome back to Daft Twang. I'm Dave. We're going to jump right in on this EA jam today. I like it. It's a fun one. It's a groover. It sounds familiar, right? I don't play it exactly like that in that backing track, but obviously we're using, the kind of vibe or whatever. The conga drum, it's got that 70s, a little bit of Southern, a little bit of that doobies kind of feel. So it's a 2/4. I'm playing on the guitar part on that backing track. I'm playing E major triad and A major triad. No sevenths or anything. We're not going to talk too much before we start jamming here, but there's a couple things I'll point out regarding the extensions, but namely the seventh when we get going, and that'll help us pick sort of our modal sound for this or whatever. Nothing fancy, trust me. Just, let's get warmed up and stick to kind of like home base, which for me on this sort of thing is like right around in here. It just fits right in with that inverted triad shape that. There's the A. I guess I'm fairly in tune there. Sometimes I'm not used to playing this guitar as much, so the other one's not acting right. So we're using this one today. I love the tone of it. So off we go. I know I've been mentioning this when it's so important. Just play along with the song. Don't just start, I'm going to play that one lick, When you sit down to start playing, just settle in. Until the changing of the chords becomes natural, not something that you're like, I'm on this chord and I'm on that chord, right? It's just, your mind should be like drifting away from it. Takes a few minutes. Okay. Now, what happens is when I said your mind drifts away from the rhythm, that's when you know that you're ready to like really start interpreting the song, really start playing, like in a soloing sense, or like just, if you're going to be singing in the band while you're playing the rhythm part or whatever, right? You never want to be fighting that kind of where am I thing, right? A while back on Guthrie's channel, he put up a thing. I don't know if it was a short or something. Like he's one of the few that I'm actually on his feed and like get all of his stuff. I really like it. It said something like, if you're not playing a 12-bar blues without fumbling around or whatever, then that what to do. That just put everything else, just drop what you're doing and just be doing that. And, I'm not quite as hardcore as he is about some of the things, obviously. But man, makes sense to me, right? But you can do that with anything that we play, right? This 2-chord stuff, don't just blow it off like, I got it. It's G and A, whatever, It's still, it's music, So by the time you get settled in there, when you start to move into that soloing, you're stuff that you're not even conscious of in your body and your brain, it's already happening. So when I go, right, see, my lick is, I'm not thinking like I'm going to play this chord tone and that, then I'm going to land it on this chord, and then the guitar calculator thing or whatever. I mean, it's for learning, right? It's not for playing. Does that make sense? You know, and some of us are presenting stuff sometimes, I think, where we're maybe signaling some of this, the wrong things, by focusing on that, talking about that stuff all the time, right? So what you want is something that just feels like it's fits into what your body's already settled into. Now that time I did aim for the root because I didn't want to. I was going to come down and just play that E again because that does happen to be a chord tone of A. And it sounds cool, right? So when I start thinking, my playing starts to suffer, right, a little bit. But it's a necessary compromise because I'm teaching right now, right? We have to talk about it, right? But check that out. There, and I went back up to the root. But the important thing to me is to have a home base. And for this kind of progression, this kind of jam, the home base for me is right in here. It's that Doobie Brothers shape. See, you can't go wrong in there. Now, I'm used to that, right? If you're not used to that, you might be like, well, okay, easy for you to say, right? But, let's just chunk this down a little bit. We've got a kind of it's that triad of E, right? And then with the third on the bottom, that's a G sharp down there, right? There's another G sharp, right? So if we kind of look for a scale to sort of fill in, well, let's look at it as major pentatonic first for the. Right? Make little phrases out of it. Don't just play it up and down and be like, okay, I got that. No, yeah. Few little embellishments. Now, when we do this, you can only play one note on a string, on a guitar, on a stringed instrument at a time, right? So when you do this, for this, to reach this note, you've got that major third in there. It's a very important note in all triads. There's only 3 notes in the triad, but that third is kind of the thing that gives it the quality, right? So when you hold that up there, Then you've got that sustaining, and you can add other notes to it and make a chord. So there we've got the major third, G sharp for E, and the fifth for E major. Root third, fifth, root third, fifth. Okay, so now I can play a third, together. Could do it like that, right? A lot of different ways, but that bend sounds nice. Then if I want to, I can reach up and play a root up there too, and the high E. Okay, so a lot of you already know that, but maybe you don't always think of it as being a chord, as it's a triad, right? Now here's something that's fun about this. I'm going to reset my placement of my backing track here real quick, and then we're going to play some E triad licks like what we just did, but also over the A. Okay, so we don't have to necessarily move and do something totally different there. And you'll see what happens is that those notes that are in there are nice extensions of the A also, and they overlap a lot. So check this out. Okay, crammed quite a bit of stuff in there on that example. I kept doubling back to make sure I was kind of showing you several different versions of it. But it's the same, the point of that was that it's the same stuff, not really going out and playing like a separate A thing, right? And what happens is you end up in an E mixolydian. You end up with like... which means that if you take those notes from that scale and you apply it over the A, you'll end up sometimes with this note over the A. So that has a major sound, the major 7 sound, right? So you end up with the progression sounds. If you played it, I only played triads on the backing track, but like on the piano and stuff, there's more extensions. So it would sound something like... I almost reached down there and played a minor third for that E, but I wanted a major third there. The interesting thing is that because it's mixolydian, you can also play an E blues scale in there. We're not going to, muddle this up with all of that right now. Here's a good program for this that'll let you have some nice sounding jams and really settle in and kind of stay calm. E major out of this position. Experiment with using the E bends and shapes and triad stuff that we worked through over the E as well as the A. right? And the whole kind of run of the E major pentatonic. After a while, you can kind of feel that back and forth between that E and that A, even though you're just using that centralized E system. If you want to get a little bit more fancy, you could play something more designated to the A, after a while. Right? You of course could address the chords individually like that. But what's really fun and what really allows you to kind of keep things going and keep that momentum is this business of playing through with that E major pentatonic and E major triad bends and stuff over both chords. Hope you have fun with this one. Let me know how it goes. Appreciate you. See you next time.